Magandang gabi and welcome ulit sa Just Ask Why, podcast episode number 11. Okay, it's my 11th episode. And ang topic natin for tonight is, why is my ex angry at me? So, parang, isa pang controversial topic, no? Hindi naman controversial na in a sense, apektado ang buong Pilipinas, pero it's controversial on a personal level. Dahil ang unang tanong ay, sino ba ang ex natin? Does the word ex have to be related to relationships lang ba? Like, kunwari, sa love lang ba dapat nakokonek ang ex? Ex-jowa? Ex-girlfriend? Ex-boyfriend? Ex-fling? Ex-fubu? Or whatever pa yan, di ba? Pero, pwede ba nating masabi, how about ex-friends? Ex-best friends? Ex-BFFs? Di ba pwede naman yun? Pero I don't think I have to explain what ex is. Kasi usually I explain the terms, ano. It's usually used to call someone when you had a thing with them previously. Kunwari, ex-classmate, diba? Classmate mo last year, ngayon hindi na. Ex-coworker, katrabaho mo dati, ngayon hindi na. You get the idea, diba? And usually when we have exes, we tend to leave the past behind. We usually move on and go on with our lives. Diba, kunwari, kung kaklase mo to last year at magtropa kayo, next year, may bago ka ng tropa sa bago mong classroom. Kahit nililive natin yung past behind, some exes show up in your emails or messages, and then bigla na lang mag-go off sila sa'yo. Baka bigla kang pagmura-murahin, baka sabihin, mga iwan ka, kinakalimutan mo mga dati mong kaibigan. Some have the time to actually post shit about you on social media. Kasi yun yung natin ngayon, in this digital age, diba? Some would also tell their friends how you were a piece of shit to them. Grabe yung pantatrash talk sa'yo. And some of those can be lies, some of those can be truth. But we don't want to focus on whether it was true or not. We have to ask kasi, why are they so angry at us? But we have to understand that anger in order to understand their actions. So, bago natin maano dyan, punta natin, let's ask ourselves, what if the angry ex was the one that broke up with me? 'Di ba? What if yung angry ex na yun, sabihin natin, hala, bakit galit tong ex na sa akin na ito? Siya naman tong nakipag-break sa akin. 'Di ba? Gusto natin malaman yung yung reason na yun, kung bakit sila galit na galit. Diba? It seems counterintuitive, kumbaga. Your ex who recently broke up with you seems angry with you. In fact, they appear to be growing angrier with you by the day. But why would they be angry with you? Sila nga yung nakipag-break sa'yo, diba? Sila na nga nang iwan, sila pa ang galit. And actually, there is psychology behind it. And I'll be talking about a few. So una, which is very common, baka alam to ng iba, baka hindi, it's the 5 stages of grief. The 5 stages of grief, it doesn't really convince me actually. Pero it doesn't mean na I undermine what others may be going through. But I'll talk about what convinces me more later, no? So, for your information lang, the 5 stages of grief are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Now, I won't talk about it more because I told you na it doesn't really convince me. Kasi, I'm not convinced because I don't think it's valid to spout your anger once you reach the anger stage, which is the second stage. Though it may be hard to suppress it, it doesn't mean that it's right, especially if you're the one who initiated the breakup. Then again, I don't want to invalidate whatever it is that someone is going through. If you feel very angry, if you're going through this process, okay, fine. We understand, diba, your feelings, ganon. It's just that I don't think this is a right excuse, diba, kumbaga. Some kasi may say, sorry, galit na galit lang talaga kasi ako ganon. So, going over that, bakit nandun pa rin siya sa mga reasons, is because of the second one, the relapse mentality. Others don't go through that specific order, which is denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Usually, yun daw kasi yung process Some people skip through certain processes, or they relapse, bumabalik, diba? Maybe they go through the 5 stages of grief, and even after they have accepted the breakup, bigla na lang sila magagalit ulit. Or bigla na lang sila magiging in denial. And I don't think the 5 stages are wrong. Don't get me wrong. I believe that they are all valid. Just, hindi lang lahat nag-go through that same process na denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. You know, nare-revise siya kumbaga, nagsiswitch-switch, nagsha-shuffle kumbaga, habang nagigrieve ang isang tao. And you know, the truth is, everyone reacts differently to things that make them grieve, diba? Pain is subjective. Some people immediately jump to anger and skip the denial stage. Diba? Tulad ng mga ex na ito, bago pa nila deny na parang, pag-break ako nito, ganyan-ganyan, baka nasa stage sila agad ng anger, diba? Once they realize na parang nakipag-break sila, parang galit na agad sila sa ex nila. You know, there is no real hard and fast rule as to how we experience these stages, diba? As I've said, diba? I don't think lang na, for me, personally, na dapat ilabas mo agad yung galit mo sa isang tao, ganun. Pero, wala naman talagang rule na ganun eh. Kailangan mo sundan muna ang flow na dapat nasa stage ka ng denial, tapos saka ka pupunta sa anger. Walang rule. These stages are set to you, and I think na, you go through it na whichever stage you are on. Diba? Pwede ka mag-relapse, pwede ka mag-skip, whichever. So I think, when an ex is angry with you, they are experiencing the 5 stages of grief. But they may not go through the stages in the order that you would expect. Meaning, your ex could accept the breakup at first, parang after nila may pag-break sa'yo, sabi nila, sige, magloloko-loko na ako, mahanap na agad ako ng bago. Tapos biglang pag na-realize nila or nakita nila na parang, alam mo yun, na may okay ka pala, magagalit sila bigla. Di ba parang, hindi ba ikaw ang nakipag-break? So, ano ba dapat? Di ba? Yung ex mo naman, baka mapaisip mo, if ever you know the 5 stages of grief, baka sabihin mo, bakit siya galit agad? Dapat pagdaanan niya muna yung denial stage, di ba? Ayun. Or kaya, bakit siya nasa acceptance stage agad? Bakit siya may bago, di ba? So, alam mo yun, parang, it may not make sense logically, but remember, this is an emotional process. Remember, may mga iba rin, tanggap na agad nilang breakup, tapos may bago na. Tapos habang may bago na, ginugulo pa nila yung mga ex nila. I don't think na parang, alam mo, parang ang gulo lang. Pero remember, it's an emotional process. We don't have to invalidate the feelings of others. Ganun talagang nagdadaanan nila. And and I think, it all boils down to one thing, no? I think for them, most for the people is that change hurts for them. Yung nakasanayan nila. Change is one gigantic constant in our lives, and quite often people do not respond well to change, diba? Kung kilala nyo ang favorite kong politician, si Rodrigo Duterte, ang kanya-kanyang pinaka-famous na quote ay hindi yung mura na PI, kundi change is coming. And change is one gigantic constant in our lives nga. Laging dadating talaga ang change. So, hindi ko alam paano tayo naloko doon sa change is coming, ba? It is coming talaga, regardless of who wins the election. Anyways, the smart thing for all of us to do is to embrace change and understand that change is a daily part of our lives. It will never go away. But that's not what most people do. Okay? Many of us tend to wake up and expect today to be like yesterday. Many of us expect things to go kung paano natin nakasanayan. Many of us don't want immediate change. We stick to our routines and do what we are used to doing because komportable na tayo dun. Yun yung nakasanayan natin. And kadalasan sa atin, we don't want to take risks or we don't want immediate change. Gusto natin kung saan tayo comfortable. Ayaw natin umalis sa safe space natin, kumbaga. But that's not how life works. No? I may be 18, turning 19, pero I do know na not everything will be comfortable. Change is a one big ass constant force. Lagi yan nandyan, lagi kang guguluhin. So how does this have anything to do with your ex na galit sa'yo? Well, even if your ex is the one who broke up with you, a big change in their life has occurred. And as we already covered, people don't like change. And they start to act a little bit funny. If messy, I guess. Little bit funny na lang, diba? When change happens. And the irony here is, yung ex mo ang nakipag-break sa'yo. So bakit parang, grabe, sobrang apektado ba? Siya nga yung nag-initiate ng breakup. Siya nga yung gusto umalis, diba? And it's a paradox, kumbaga. They wanted to break up with you, therefore they are the one who caused the change. So bakit nga ba sila magagalit? Diba? They brought this upon themselves, tapos sila pa ang may lakas ng loob na magalit sa'yo at Pagmura-murahin ka dahil lang may nabago sa kanyang routine. And from my experience, I have learned that exes tend to live in the now rather than the later. They think, maybe if I change this now and break up with you, it will make me feel better, no? Hindi talaga nila pinag-iisipan yung, well, maybe if I change this right now, it will make me feel like crap later. Diba? Naisip lang nila, kunwari ngayon, malungkot ako, at kung nakipag-break ako sa'yo, baka feeling ko magiging masaya ako ngayon. Pero, ang tanong, diba, magiging masaya ka ba bukas? Or sa susunod na panahon, diba? They don't think long term eh. Kaya nga nauuso rin yung mga tinatawag natin na cool off dyan. And personally, ako, I don't believe in cool offs. It's a stupid thing, kasi kung pwede nyo naman pag-usapan, they don't cool off, diba? Kung magawi kayo, di magawi kayo. Kung ayaw nyo magpansinan, they don't. Pero walang cool off, Diyos ko. May mga iba nga nagko-cool off tapos may kausap na iba. Pero syempre, ibang topic na yon. So yun nga, parang hindi nila pinag-iisipan yung later. Laging, ano nangyari ngayon, ano nangyari ngayon. Ngayon. Hindi yung mamaya, or bukas, or next week, diba? And yun, mapupunta tayo dito sa point na ito. Sila nakipag-break, tapos sila pang nasasaktan. Or that's how they want to put it. Napupunta tayo sa victim mentality. In this time, one of the most interesting and alarming patterns that I've noticed is the tendency of exes to paint themselves as victims, even if they are the ones who initiated the breakup. Di ba parang ang kapal? Ikaw na nga nang iwan sa akin, ikaw pang nanakit sa akin, tapos ikaw pa ang biktima? Now, why is this? I mean, the paradox is, your ex is the one who broke up with you. Why would they initiate a breakup if they knew it would cause them pain later? Diba? Let's say lang, let's give them the benefit of the doubt na napag-isipan nila na if nakipag-break sila ngayon, masasaktan sila later. Well, ayun nga. I think lang that the key to it is hindi talaga nila na-realize yun. No, kahit isipin mo na parang, alam naman yung pag nakipag-break siya, mawawala ito lahat. Diba? I'm telling you, hindi nga talaga nalaman yun. Hindi nga talaga napag-isipan yun. So, kunwari kung long term kayo, nakipag-break siya sa'yo, tapos bigla siya na pa nagagalit sa'yo, promise, I'm telling you, hindi niya na-realize yung worth mo at that moment. You see, even if your ex broke up with you, they still experience the pain this change has caused. No? Dahil nga nasabi ko nga na karamihan sa atin ay hindi comfortable with change. And they still experience the 5 stages of grief. Maybe not in the traditional order of how those stages are laid out, or in a way na is universally expected or accepted by others, but they will still feel pain kahit silang nakipag-break. Kaya don't invalidate their emotions, no, kumbaga. And in their mind, you become the source of their pain. Hindi yung breakup nyo. Ikaw mismo. Dahil, grabe, ganito yung pakiramdam niya. Nakipag-break ako, ang sakit. So, pakiramdam nila, sila ang victim. And they will do anything as a victim, diba? To protect themselves. Ganun naman talaga halos lahat ng mga tao. And I realize this sounds a little twisted, no? What your ex really needs to do is hold a mirror up and realize na sila ang nananakit. Sila ang gumagawa ng masakit na bagay sa'yo. So, parang, diba? Parang, bakit ang victim mentality nasa ex? Kasi iniisip nila na parang, ito yung nanakit sa akin. I mean, sunod-sunod niyan eh. Siya yung nanakit sa akin dahil nung nakipag-break ako, ganito yung nararamdaman niya. Parang, shucks, wala talaga siyang paki sa nararamdaman ko. Kaya sila nagagalit sa'yo. Kaya nagagalit yung mga ex mo. Yung ex mo sa'yo. That's why, yung ex mo, sinasabi yung mga mean things na to sa'yo. But that might not be the case as well. Perhaps talaga na you've done something so bad that pushed them so far para makipag-break sa'yo. And we can never be too sure of that kasi, pain is subjective, as I've said. It varies from everyone. So ngayon, ang next naman is, what if naman yung breakup yung dalawa ay mutual? So let's say na mutual, pinag-usapan nyo. They're upset that you're gone and that it doesn't seem to be bothering you, and their anger is their way of dealing with the fact that they miss you. Alam mo, galit na galit sila dahil miss ka nila tapos ikaw, wala kang pake. Or let's say na, tinatago mo lang yung nararamdaman mo, di ba? It doesn't necessarily mean that they want reconciliation, no? Or it doesn't mean na gusto nila may pagbalikan. It's just the fact na parang galit sila dahil sila may pake pa sa'yo tapos ikaw wala na. And it hurts them that you don't obviously feel the same way. They expected you to be fighting to get them back at this point. honestly, both exes, lagi naman ganun, unless may nahanap ng iba, di ba? Both exes want na yung ex nila, ipaglaban sila. Kahit nasa dulo na, as I would say it. Kumari, nasa bangin na, mahuhulog na. Gusto nila, ipaglaban na lang isa't isa, hindi yung aalis na lang basta-basta. Either you have been pleading for their love and decided to stop pleading, or you never really pleaded in the first place. Marami kasing galit ganun eh. Parang, sa simula ka lang magmamakaawa para sa na bumalik ako, tapos wala na. Or, ano yun? Ganun na lang? Tatapon na lang natin ang 2 years natin together? Ang 5 years natin together? Tapos, hindi mo na ako mamahalin? Ganun? Sayang na lang? Itapon na lang natin? Either way, you are not doing what they expected you to do. Which is to make awa for them or beg for them, diba? Kumbaga, sorry sa konyo. Their anger is a way to subconsciously create the means by which they can survive the split without experiencing a blow to their ego. Remember, lahat ng ex, gusto talaga nila na parang, hala, iniisip ba niya ako? Kamusta kaya tong tao na to? Sino-story niya ba ako? Is this person tweeting about me? Kaya tendency we stalk, diba? Pero ayaw natin ipaalam. Minsan nga, ginagawa natin, tinatanong natin mga kaibigan natin, uy pre, bro, or sis, pa-check nga naman yung Twitter or Facebook or IG ni X. Gusto ko lang malaman kung kamusta siya, di ba? Ayaw natin ipaalam kasi nga, yung ego natin eh. Ayaw natin matamaan yung ego natin. Ayaw natin magmukhang marupok or whichever, di ba? And it would be actually difficult for that ex to not take a blow to their ego. And that's why, most likely, galit sila dahil doon. Pinapakita nila yung galit na para bang, so, wala talaga? Wala na? And then, naglalash out, diba ganyan? And when an ex is angry, they often hold on to that anger for longer than necessary, diba? Kumbaga, while they might have a legitimate reason to feel that way, they often subconsciously preserve that feeling because it keeps them in a position of power over you. Pag napapansin nila na hindi ka pa rin kumahagat sa gusto nila, gusto pa rin nila i-maintain yung anger na yon. 'Di ba? Gusto nila ipakita sa mundo na parang, oh my gosh, sobrang salbahe nitong ex ko. Wala siyang pake sa akin. And they tend to keep that anger para feeling nila superior sila kasi it drives them eh. That anger drives them. Which is, honestly, I'm not a fan of when anger drives you to do things. They can often abuse this power to make themselves feel better. They want to feel like they call the shots now kasi you screwed up, 'di ba? Gusto sila yung tipong pag may bago na sila, tapos pag ikaw, may bago ka na, sila pa magagalit parang, tignan mo, wala talaga siyang paki sa akin, meron siyang bago eh. Diba? Ganon? May mga ganon na ex, diba? And this becomes incredibly frustrating for you because it feels like you can't win. And they build the walls and you can't seem to figure out what to do. Sila na parang pinambakuran ka nila, gets mo? Parang lahat ng actions mo, bantay sarado. Parang lahat na lang na pwede mong gawin na para sa'yo, hindi mo na magawa kasi yung anger nila sa'yo, ginagamit nila yon para makagawa ng narrative na ikaw ang masamang tao at sila ang hindi. Sila ang kaawa-awa. And that is very important for them kasi it's about their ego. It's helping them stay afloat, Pero deep down, they miss you. Kasi sino tao bang magi-invest ng time kung, 'di ba? Kung ex na nga kayo. Kasi obviously they miss you. And then obviously, pag mawawala na yung galit, it's because they've moved on na. Finally, they no longer miss you. Pag wala na yung galit, wala na rin. Hindi ka na niya kukulitin, wala na nakabantay, whichever ganon. Indifference will follow. So parang, ayun nga, it's a nice thing, no? Baka kasi may magtanong sa inyo na, bakit hindi ko diniscuss yung part na pag ako'y nakipag-break up, bakit siya yung galit? Obvious naman siguro, sino bang hindi magagalit pagka dinump ka, di ba? Kunwari ako, pag ako nakipag-break sa kung may current jowa ako ngayon, obviously magagalit yung jowa na yun, di ba? Parang, ba't mo ko iniwan? Ba't mo binrake? Ganyan. Quarantine lang ba ako? Ganyan. Obviously, people would get upset if you broke up with them, di ba? Ang nakakaiba nga lang is, kunwari, una nga kanina, sinabi ko, which is, what if yung nakipag-break sa'yo, sila pang nagalit? So ngayon, punta tayo sa part ng, what do I do? It's a very hard thing kasi it's a play of minds no. Parang palakasan siya ng emotional, mental health, ganun, or mental battle siya kumbaga. It's just to never play into their anger. They want kasi to rile you up. They want to trigger you kumbaga. They want you to act based on your emotions in a way na they would prove to everyone na ikaw yung masama, 'di ba? Pagka ginagago ka nila, nagpapatama palagi or whatever means they have, if you react to it, sila pa magkakalat na, tignan mo, sobrang petty niya, nagre-reply sa mga patama ko sa kanya. It's like, wow, 'di ba? Parang wala ka na magagawa. And totoo, yung feeling na parang wala na ba akong gagawin? Actually, that's the point. Wala kang gagawin. You have to take the high ground. Be the better person in this and focus on yourself. You have to simply avoid these people, yung ex mo lalo, who keeps on ruining, as I would say, ruining your life. It's time to prioritize the things that actually make you happy, and you will see a tangible shift in the situation. Although very hard, although mahirap, kasi parang, alam mo, may galit pa yung ex mo sa'yo. And then ikaw, nayayamot ka na rin kasi parang, siya na lang ba may say sa lahat? Tapos ako, once I talk, parang wala na, bawal na ako magsalita. Mahirap, di ba? Mahirap yung position na yun. Pero, you have to be the better person palagi. You have to prioritize the things na lang that make you happy, whichever it is. If it's playing video games, go play video games. If it's drawing or dancing or reading a book, writing a book, whichever, go do it. Do anything that distracts you and makes you happy. And once you begin focusing on making improvements to your own life instead of trying to address their anger for the sake of maturity, they will notice. And this is when you'll start to notice that they will test the waters and try to reestablish contact with you. May mga iba kasi pag nakita nila na okay ka na, tapos parang, so wala na, hindi na gumagana yung pangungulit nila or panggagago sa'yo, sila na magta-try na reach out, and then sila magugulat ka na lang na sila na bigla magsasorry sa'yo. And then they'll try na parang, pwede ba natin ayusin to? Can we, be friends, ganyan. And then, honestly, parang ikaw magugulat ka, di ba? Parang, so ngayon, gusto mo na makipag-usap, ganyan, ng maayos. Dati, willing ako makipag-usap sa'yo ng maayos, di ba? Ganyan. And talaga the absolute best thing to do right now, is to focus on your own personal development so that you can become the best version of yourself. But even if your ex is angry at you, the more attention you give them, the easier it will be for them to take you for granted and maintain control in the power play. If you feed to their ego, kumbaga, talagang may isip talaga nila na parang, nasa kamay ko siya. Lahat ng galaw ko, kontrolado ko siya. Pwede ko tong gagawin, pwede ko tong paglaruan. Gets, 'di ba? So parang really the best thing is to focus on yourself. And once you make a shift and begin prioritizing your own well-being, growing from the breakup, becoming the new and improved version of yourself, you 2.0, but you will find yourself in a better position and in a quieter one. Mas tahimik, mas peaceful, mas magiging grateful ka na nandito ka sa buhay na yun. And lastly, you just have to let go, kumbaga. People come and go and it's normal for things to end. Life has so much more to offer. As I've said, kahit 18 lang ako, I am sure of that kasi it's the same thing that older people than me have been telling me na parang don't settle for this lang. For sure, life will give so much more. And while we wait for what life has to offer, diba? Let's continue focusing on ourselves. Let's continue building ourselves to become better persons every single day. Diba? Let's focus on becoming better than who we were yesterday or 5 minutes earlier, diba? Yung ganun ba? And ayun, parang it's a good thing, kumbaga, na parang we have this thing na parang alam natin ang capabilities natin, and then alam natin ang ating mga strengths, then we have to keep on focusing on it instead of focusing on what others have to say. And then makita mo yung self-improvement mo talagang gaganda. Even if you know na people out there are talking crap behind you, shit behind you, you just have to not mind it, no? I know it's hard, it's very hard. Easier said than done. Pero trust me, I know you can do it. I know everyone can do it. So once again, this is Just Ask Why, podcast episode number 11. Thank you and good night.